Today, we're going to speak about how we use it Neo4j and the Bean to evaluate the students' proficiency here at Trybe. And like Raquel said, Trybe is a web development school. So we teach and help people to become good developers and find good job positions in the market. And first of all, let's introduce ourselves again. My name is Victor Caciquinho. I have been using Elixir for the past 3 years, and I'm currently at Trybe for the past 2 years.
Well, my name is Willian Frantz. I am a software developer also. I'm currently working only with Elixir and trying to be as most as active as I can to the Brazilian community. And below here, you can find our social networks in case you want to get in touch with us.
Nice. So how does students' evaluations work? Well, nowadays, most of learning platforms use basic Boolean logic. So either a student has answered a question correct or incorrect, but ideally, we want to have a more accurate diagnosis on Trybe of our students' proficiency. So how do we get that? And we started mapping that whenever you're learning something new, everything are skills. So it's all about the skills. The skills end up being like a huge universe that connects all learning elements from quizzes, projects, learning content, videos. In other words, skills are like a common language in their learning concept. So there are many ways to measure someone's proficiency based on their skills, because there's many types of skills and they relate to each other in infinite ways. So we started talking with our curriculum team and we learned that skills have some hierarchy and learning rules. So taking by example, the drawing, let's say we have a macro skill that it's HTML. I can't just say to a student that he knows HTML, because before he gets to that macro skill, he needs to learn many other skills. So we started mapping that HTML is a parent of the skill tags, but it's also a parent of the skill box model. So before someone learns HTML, he needs to learn tags and box model. And the tree keeps going down and getting more granulate. So looking to the skill tags, by example, we have its parent of 3 skills, that the tag table and the tag body. And that's where the learning rules starts to kick in, because I can say someone has learned table, tag, the skill, but hasn't learned the skill body of the tag body. So we started seeing that some skills depend on each other too. So we can say that someone has learned that skill. So we started drawing and mapping with our curriculum team all those huge trees of skills of the contents that we teach here on Trybe, and how do we store all this data and all those skills?
So just like Caciquinho said, we store everything using a graph. So we have a huge graph, which is the skill tree that we call it. And let's talk about data models. So nowadays we have lots of data models, and like key store values, documents, relational graphs. And why have we chosen graphs data model? The graph data model consists of mapping everything by using nodes and edges. So just like Caciquinho said, we have a skill tree, which consists of a couple of macro nodes, macro skills like HTML. HTML might have tags, and tags might contains body and table and other tags below here. So we can map, we can create relation between those nodes without having to create a definition for that previously. So different from a relational database like Postgres, for example, you would have to map this using migrations, create a structure inside the database, defining that we have a table that is skills, and we have another table that is students, and etc. And every time, if we need to increment the relation, add a different relation, or change the relation, we would need another migration, etc. And even the queries for that would be huge, and we would lose a couple of points on performance, for example. So within the graph database, we just needed to start a node, and this node represents something like HTML, and we could start another node representing the student, and we could map like that using edges. So that's why we found that Neo4j graph model would be everything we were looking for. So that's why we chosen this. And where does the beam fit in? So currently we're using microservices. So we are into microservices because we have a couple of teams, and each team is responsible for a tiny service that contains a single responsibility. So I might have a quiz service, for example, and there is a team responsible for that. And every communication of our services, most of the communications are done by event-driven architecture. So it's a sync. So every time service A needs to communicate with service B, he would dispatch a message, and the service B would consume the message, which is what we called event carried state. And of course, for that, we use Broadway, which we want to be able to do all of this in an easy way without Broadway. So shout out to Marlos, Valini, and all of the Dashpeak team. And here is how it looks like. We have an Elixir tree service, which is a skill tree service actually, which is done by using Elixir. And this service consumes messages from RabbitMQ, and it processes the data and stores the data into the Neo4j database. And we have a couple of a couple of services down here, which are the microservices that we use for serving the front end. And we have services for quiz that if a person answers to a quiz, the service will dispatch a message saying what requirements were filled by that student, and the skill tree will only need to grab that message, consume the message, and process the data. I don't need to know which service is sending me the message, and those services below don't need to know where they are sending the message also. So it's all about the message itself. And also we have a machine learning service around here, which consists of grabbing the Neo4j data and creating a learning model on it, and it generates a skill tree with points. Caciquinho is going to explain in the next slides as well. So we're not using NX yet, we're using Python still for this service in specific, but we're considering to change for NX also.
And like William said, so we are currently using RabbitMQ and Broadway. So since Broadway has a connector for RabbitMQ, we can easily plug in several pipelines for data ingestion and processing for each specific scenario. So like the drawing shows, let's say about the requirements service, it can just send, it dispatches events to the exchange. The exchange is going to redirect those requirement messages to the requirement queue. And with Broadway on our Elixir service, that it's skill tree, we can have a specific topology of a consumer with Broadway connected to that queue. And it's going to only consume messages and events of requirements. And it can have its specific configurations. And we can keep creating queues for each service and keep creating consumers with Broadway for each one. And the powers of the beam come with Broadway also. So we can easily control back pressure, batching, fault tolerance, graceful shutdown. And Broadway also has a perfect built-in testing. So it's pretty easy to ship and to use. And like William said, I guess that's the magic of all the data that we save on Neo4j from all other services, that it's the result of our machine learning service that it's on Python at the moment. That let's say we have a student X and it's his first day of class of Unix. And at the end of the day, our machine learning, it's gonna process what all the students have learned, the contents, quizzes, projects, exercises they have done. And it's going to generate a specific score for each skill. So we no longer have to worry about that Boolean logic that either you know or you don't know. So 0, 1 or true or false. That way we can keep showing to our students, like on the first day, our students X, I can easily show him on the command no, on the command Sage mod, you have a score of 0.5. And on the command mkdir, you have a score of 0. So you need to practice that more. You can see that this content, you need to do more exercises. And on the second day, our machine learning project rolls again and generates a new learning tree that it's also saved on Neo4j. And we can see that, oh no, on the command Sage mod, now your score went up to 0.7. And your mkdir command that was on score 0, now it's 0.5. So since the beginning of the course till the day the student graduates, we can keep a track of all its learning through the days. And we can keep giving him feedbacks about what skill he needs to practice more, what are his weakest points or his strongest points on skills. But since not everything are flowers, we also had some challenges along the way with this idea. Since Elixir didn't have a specific adapter for Neo4j, we needed to use both SIPs, thanks to Florin, that he created both SIPs, which is pretty much a Elixir driver for interacting and communicating with Neo4j. But we needed also to make Elixir and Neo4j best friends. And what a better way to make Elixir a best friend with a database than using Ecto. So we started developing Neo4ecto to help us to maintain a solid code base. But Neo4ecto is still in its early stages. We are currently needing to keep working on him. It's open source. And we have a lot of work to keep doing on it.
So yeah, Neo4ecto is still on. It still has a basic setup. One of the main challenges that we have also is because we started doing everything on the skill tree side. So most of the queries and etc. are on the skill tree service. And the raise of Neo4ecto was because we were trying to standardize our code by using Ecto. And we're still trying to bring the features that we created on skill tree to Neo4ecto. So bring the core features. So the next steps for us would be to create a DSL for Ecto query. So we want to be able to use Cypher. So I want to be able to match something, return something, just like Ecto query does actually currently. And we want to map the Neo4j relations as well. We know that it's some kind of a problem since Ecto schema only maps things like SQL relations, for example, many to many, belongs to, etc. But that is something we are still working on, and we want to improve the project documentation also. So I guess that's it. I know that this talk, we went about to talk 20 minutes, I guess, the whole talk. And we just show some of the ideas that we've been through this last year. And in case you want to talk more about, to understand more, you can call me or call Caciquinho on Twitter. Feel free to do so. Any questions?
Nice talk. Thank you. I was looking for the Q&A section. Don't think there's any questions right now, but if any of you that are watching have any questions, please just unmute yourself and you can ask, or if you are shy, just send a message and I will read it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes, so you said that you are using Python for machine learning, and I believe from what you said, the plan is to use Elixir for that in the future.
Yeah, currently our plan, we have our data science team that has made our Python service, and they are using Bayesian knowledge tracing with Markov's model and some algorithms. And our plan is to detach, do not need to use a Python service anymore, and make only skill tree using NX do all the machine learning. Because now, it's not only skill tree needs to connect to the Neo4j database. So our Python service connects to Neo4j, gets all the data and starts processing and then ships to RabbitMQ. Then our Elixir service receives these and start creating the knowledge trees that the Python service has generated. So our future plans is totally to start using NX and keep all that logic on skill tree.
Nice. In one more questions, we still
Sure.
have. Yay,
Yeah,
nice.
I've got a question. So I definitely feel the pain of, I've done quite a bit of Neo4j with Elixir, and yeah, the Ecto just doesn't really model, those relationships in the same way. So, but I guess main question is, how have you been dealing with the load on Neo4j? Are you running it in high availability? Are you guys updating your graphs quite a bit? Are you doing a graph per person as well, or how are you kind of managing that?
Okay, so there are some parts like let me just get back here. Here, for example, the upper part here, for example, it's not changed frequently, so it is something that we built on the start. So the curriculum team said we need to map this into all the skills that we are releasing for some project or for some cohort. And so this is not updated frequently. We just receive data from below here, which is the student's data. So student data achieved a requirement and fulfilled the requirement. And this requirement is directly related to body or to table. So most of the things that we are processing are below here. So we're not really having problems with that. And what was the other question? Sorry.
I guess, yeah, so are you just running a single Neo4j node, or are you running in a high availability setup?
Yeah, to complete William on that question, currently we are using our cloud, that it's a hosting service by Neo4j. So it runs on a cluster. We had problems specifically with the machine learning service, because let's say we have 2,000 students right now. So in the end of the day, it generates 2,000 new trees and ships to RabbitMQ. So we were having problems with the bolt-zips driver to connect on our cloud, and the run memory was like blowing up. Lots of problems because it was cloning graphs using a POC. And we had to use Broadway on that to control, do it in batches. And we are currently thinking about leaving our cloud and host our Neo4j, because bolt-zips still doesn't handle clustering very well. So we wanted to have a single node with a lot of ham, or AWS with our DevOps team handling, but it's meant for the next steps.
And so I guess, is the student, because I know you showed some of the like scoring, is that a graph within Neo4j as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't show it's pretty much, let's say on the course now, all the content we have like, 10,000 skills, and it's a lot of mini trees, because you have like Unix tree, HTML, Node.js, JavaScript. So every time a student, in the end of the day, our machine learning service, it clones all the skills. So it makes all the trees again and plugs on a specific student. So if you have like 10,000 trees and one student, every day it's going to generate clone 10,000 new skill trees for each student. So we have 2K students. That's like not really good with math, but I guess 2 million.
Yeah. And can the trees have share? Do you have nodes that connect between the different trees for skill sets?
Sometimes we have the dependence relation. So let me think of an example. Let's say React, like whenever you're mapping components using .map. So on JavaScript, you have the skill using .map. So it's probably is gonna, before someone learn that on React, it depends on learning on JavaScript. So the trees, they sometimes happens to a specific tree has a depending relation on a skill that it's on another tree.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice. We have, I think, 3 more minutes, and we have some questions on the Q&A section. There's one that I think there was answered that if you have tried using the Neo4j, and I think you just answered some previous ago. And did you get to consider other graph database like the graph? Is another question.
No, we searched about a little bit on TitanDB, and there was another, I forgot the name, but we prefer to use Neo4j because of the huge community, and also since our cloud was like just pay and ship it, well, it was easier for us to use.
What was the first question?
The one that have you tried HTTP API using the Neo4j? It was the first question that I just skipped it, sorry. I'm asking now.
We didn't try using, but I actually, when we were developing the project, we didn't even know about it. But I have a few friends that showed me recently, but we didn't try to use, but might be a good chance also to check it out.
Yeah, so I must say, I am very curious to see somebody actually trying that in production project, because I wrote the project on a single weekend that was written for SpawnFest competition, and I have never had a chance to try it out on a production server, but I'm hoping to see if it brings any reasonable results. Thank you.
The link is on the Q&A section on the website. And I think that's all the questions, and we have just 1 minute, so I think that's it. Thank you all for participating in this chat, and see you there. I think Barbara is finishing kicking everything out of the room, but thank you.